Hello healers and health seekers, it's me, Ichota, healing with medical medium information for 4 years now. That's 4, not 10. What I'm healing from: mast cell activation disorder, dysautonomia, POTS, chronic fatigue syndrome. I have multiple chemical sensitivity, healing from migraines, from hypothyroid, and a whole host of other symptoms and conditions. If you want to know more about that, I have links in the description box below. Today I'm outside, and forgive the background noise. I can't do anything about the traffic, but the room that I usually film in, that's the quiet room, is currently occupied by my son, who is sleeping. So if I want to make a video today, and I have the idea fresh on my mind right now, and I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this right now. So I'm talking about this right now. Today I want to talk about returning home with multiple chemical sensitivity. And I know that's oddly specific, but it also just applies to having multiple chemical sensitivity. So I was thinking about this today because we recently moved back to a state that we grew up in. My husband and I both grew up here, so our families are here. We have lived on the West Coast for, 18 years before that, and now we're back in the middle of the United States where our families are. And here's the thing: if you don't have multiple chemical sensitivity, when you go back to a place that you live and your friends are there and your family is there, you go and you visit everybody. And this is what we used to do. Whenever we would visit, we'd visit for like 10 days, and we would go and we would sort of spend half the time with my family and kind of half the time with my husband's family. And then sort of in between, we would visit with friends, and we'd go to their houses and we'd see them. And that's what you do. You go and you visit people and you hang out with them. Well, we've been gone from here a long time. While I was chronically ill, we couldn't visit. So there were sometimes 5-year stretches in between visits. And that's kind of neither here nor there. I'm not sure why I even brought that part up. But so when we come back now to live here, of course, there's all these people that we haven't seen in a long time, and you think, oh, we want to see them. Now, quarantine aside, obviously that threw a whole thing into a wrench into things. But before that, trying to visit people, we can't do that the same way anymore. Now, if we want to visit with somebody, generally, they would have to come into my environment. Like when we were back on the West Coast and I was really sick, and I was, realized that I had multiple chemical sensitivity and what was going on, and that I was reacting to so many things. It's like if anyone were to come, if we wanted to visit with anyone, they would have to come to our house because I couldn't go to other people's homes. And I did have a couple of friends whose homes I could go to and I could tolerate. Luckily, it just so happened that most of the people that we knew there didn't use chemicals, so that was really easy. Now, coming back home is a whole different story. The middle of America is not like the West Coast, is it? So people have very different habits here, and pretty much everybody we knew in one form or another does use at least some kind of scented chemicals somewhere in their lives. When we first came back, I remembered my mom also being pretty sensitive, so I thought I should be able to go into her house. It should be fine. Well, since the last time I was here, and I think even before that, she started using this soap, this Nag Champa soap that is really heavily scented. And I think there are some synthetic ingredients, and even if there aren't, it has such an incredibly intense smell that I can't tolerate it. So I can't go in her home. Then my youngest and I'm the oldest of 3. My first younger brother, who's the older one. Anyway, he lives with my mom. He takes care of her. And then My youngest brother, I went to his house and his and his girlfriend's house. I could actually be in their house, and we actually stayed with them for a couple of days while our RV was being repaired when we first got here. And I was able to be in their house. It wasn't easy, but there were some things that I was like, oh, but they were really accommodating and they understood. And so while I was there, they didn't use anything. And I guess they have like enough of a low chemical use that it was okay for me to be in there. And while I was there, they were really conscious of my need for scent-free, so they didn't use anything that would set me off. And I really appreciated that, because that is a lot to ask of somebody, and most people are not that accommodating. So when we were in the RV, I didn't think I would ever be able to come here to my in-laws' house, because I knew that they used chemicals everywhere. Like, if any room in their house had like a cabinet full of chemicals, like the bathroom was loaded, the garage was loaded, the laundry room was loaded, the kitchen was loaded, and I knew, I was like, there's no way I can go to their house, that's not gonna even work. But as we were in the RV longer and longer, my in-laws said, this is unacceptable, you cannot stay in an RV, that's not okay, you need to come stay with us. And my husband said, we can't, because he has chemical sensitivity. And I guess his mom said, what do we have to do to make it safe for her? And then they did it. My husband went through this house with his mom, and they boxed up and bagged up every synthetic chemical in this house to make it safe for me. And this process took a couple of months. And there's a table next to me, that's why this arm is up. This process took a couple of months. He would come here every weekend, and they would go through stuff, and then they would just box it and bag it up. And then when they had everything boxed and bagged up, we still waited a few weeks to just kind of let things air out. Now, the bonus of this is that the basement area where we're staying, they didn't use that basement area, and they hadn't used it in like 2 years. So there hadn't been anything scent-wise coming in. And I think that was kind of the saving grace, because even now, if I go upstairs, I still am like a little bit reacty. But in the basement, I'm fine. So that was amazing. That was amazing to have somebody who like has spent the better part of their life using all of these chemicals, because not only did she have to get rid of stuff, she had to find stuff to replace it with, right? So my husband took her to the store, and they went and they found stuff that he knew that was safe for me. He was like, you can use this, you can use this, you can use this, these are the replacements. And they have acclimated to living a chemical-free life for me, so that we could live here while we look for a house, which, because of the quarantine, has extended itself out into indefinite territory, because the housing market is just like nothing, and it's just a mess. So, but I am so incredibly fortunate that happened, because house hunting, that's a whole nother video. But the other thing is, so because of my chemical sensitivity, visitors who come here also have to be scent-free, because I have nowhere else to go. Like, I can't escape and go somewhere else. And we have had incidents where, we had an incident where our niece brought a friend, because before the quarantine, there were family dinners every 2 weeks. And the niece is the age of my son, 14, and she brought a friend, and she didn't tell the friend about the scent-free, chemical-free rule. And the friend had some kind of, I don't know what it was, but it was so strong that when the friend came over, I was in the basement. I wasn't even upstairs with them. They were all upstairs. The friend came over, and within like 10 minutes of the friend being here, I was like texting my husband going, there's something and it's making me really sick. I had to like quarantine myself in the bedroom, turn on the IQ air filter with my face in the filter. And this was like in January or February. It was in the coldest month, and it was like negative. It was so freaking cold. I don't know. No, not negative. It was like 17 degrees outside. That's right. I remember. It was 17 degrees. Crazy. So, and then my husband had to ask them to leave. And, you know, my niece has never been kicked out of her Gigi's house before, you know, her grandparents' house before. Like she was like, what? But they had to leave because that scent was so strong on her that it was giving me a migraine and making me really sick and dizzy down in the base. Like, I mean, the upstairs is open to the basement, so it's not like it's a sealed off space and I'm that sensitive, but we're in a chemical-free house. You bring a strongly scented something into a chemical-free house, like you're gonna smell it. So it's the scent of it just wafted down, and I was like, help, get me out. So I quarantined myself, and then they had to open up after they left, they had to open up all the windows and air out the house for like a half an hour in 17-degree weather. It was crazy. And that sucks, but that's like, if you don't take it seriously, like that's the consequence. I mean, it's like, no, this is not a joke. Like, you have to be scent free. You can't be doing that. Because I don't want to get super sick, and I don't have anywhere, like, where else am I gonna go? Like, there's no other safe spaces. So the other part of that, so that's with visitors, they've got to be scent free. And I started thinking about like the people that I used to know and that I would love to see again and reconnect with here if I could, and you know, they'd be happy to reconnect with me. But I started realizing, like, there's one friend and I really wanted to reconnect with him and like meet his horses and stuff like that. And we started talking, and I realized that, oh, he still smokes. I'm not going to be able to see him because cigarette smoke gets all in ya. And unless he was willing to, I don't know, buy a whole new set of clothing and wash, like, there's just no way, because cigarette smoke, it gets in your clothes, it gets in your hair, it gets in everything. And so I wouldn't even be able to be around him. And I was so bummed out about that, because I'm like, oh, that really is just how it is, though. Like, anybody that I used to know, like, if they still smoke, or a lot of people have plug-in air fresheners in their home, and if they have them in their home, it means it's going to be in their clothes, it's going to be in their car, it's going to be, because that's oil-based stuff, and it gets into everything. The scents seep into everything. I mean, that's why rentals are almost impossible for us, and that's why, like, if a house that we're looking at to buy has had scented candles or plug-in air fresheners in it, I can't even go in. And the thing is it's not just a matter of like, oh, take out the plug-in or take out the scented candle. I mean, unless they've only just put it there for the selling of it and they've never used them before. Maybe. But in general, if somebody has used them for a long time, what happens is because they're oil-based, that stuff seeps into walls, into furniture, into carpeting, into flooring, anything porous, it will seep into, and it's just there. And so you're breathing it all the time, no matter what. And that stuff gets into your liver, and it's toxic, and it feeds pathogens, viruses, and bacteria, and you don't want that. Like, medical medium said that plug-in air fresheners and scented candles are actually more toxic to our health than smoking cigarettes. He said he would rather somebody smoked cigarettes than had scented candles or plug-in air fresheners in their environment. That's how toxic that stuff is. So there's a whole lot of, there's like people I can't see. because of that. Like, old friends who, especially, because you connect with old friends on Facebook and stuff like that. So it's like people I haven't seen in a long time, man. I'd love to get together with them and see them again and catch up and whatever. And I just can't do it because I guess we could just be friends on Skype or something because I can't. I know if they still smoke or something like that, I'm not going to be able to be around them. That's a bummer, man. These are good people, And it's hard if somebody lives a kind of a chemical life, like if they live a life where they have a lot of chemicals around them and stuff, to be like, hey, we need you to be scent free if you come here. It's hard for people to even understand what that means. Because, for example, if somebody has plug-in air fresheners in their home, it kills your sense of smell. So you can't, like, people don't even know a lot of times when they run out of the plug-in because their sense of smell is killed. Plus it's all seeped into the walls and the furniture and stuff. So it's just going to smell like that all the time anyway. But it does kill your sense of smell, so that like when you're out somewhere or whatever, like you don't even smell things. And I've noticed that with people. I've noticed people who I know use those, and if they came over and they had like a really strong smell on them and we would say something and they'd be like, what? I don't even smell it. It's like, yeah, because you don't have a sense of smell. Like, you don't smell anything. It's not their fault. They don't know. But that's just the fact. Like, it's not good in any way for anybody. It doesn't matter if you're sick or not. It's just that those of us who are chemically sensitive and have been chronically ill, we're very aware of it. It's like we are the canaries in the coal mine, So that's really that's a tough aspect of it. It's like it's a little bit isolating. And I mean, this quarantine period is isolating too, but before that, and then thinking about and then I'm kind of like, how am I going to explain to people? I don't want anybody to take it personally or be offended when I'm like, you smoke, I can't see you. Like, doesn't that sound like a snobby thing to say? Like, And it's not. It's like, no, this is honestly to protect my health. Like, it's not personal. I wish I could see you. Again, my one friend, because we talked and I was so excited, and because we had lost touch years and years ago, and it's been, I think we were in our 20s when we used to hang out and stuff, and we kind of got back in touch, and it's like we follow each other on social media and stuff, and then we were like, when I came back here, he's like, we have to get together. I'm like, yes, we do. And then I find out like I knew he had horses because he posts his horses on social media. I'm like, I want to meet your horses. I'm so excited. I was so excited about that, about the idea of it. And then I realized that he still smokes, and I was like, I had another situation kind of like that where I found out, a friend of mine that I used to hang out with more recently, like when we lived here before, and I found out that he worked at the Costco that we go to, and I happened to be there once with my husband, and he was working, and I saw him, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I like ran up. It's like I forget myself sometimes, and I ran up and I gave him a great big hug, and he had something on him that had like this kind of sickly baby powder scent to it. And it made me immediately, I started feeling dizzy and loopy and getting brain fog. And I just and he and my husband were talking, and I could even though I wasn't hugging him anymore, I could, it stuck to me. It was like all over my clothes and my hair, because you give somebody a hug, your hair touches them, your clothes touch them. It was all over me, and I could smell it so strongly, and it started making me just kind of feel nutty. And we were sitting there, the three of us talking, and I just wandered off in the middle of the conversation. I just walked away because I was so out of it. I just wandered off, and I was looking at something that was kind of close by, and I'm sure it was what is she doing? That's so rude. And it was, but I didn't even know what was going on. And like, even when I got in the car after, because that was like at the beginning of our visit to Costco. So we went through the whole store, we did our shopping, we leave, we get in the car, and I could still smell it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I hugged him for not that long, you know, the length of a hug I gave him. And it messed me up. Like, when we went home, I kind of had to rest, and I took a shower, changed my clothes to get the smell off me. And then I kind of had to rest a little bit because I was still a little bit like foggy in the head, and my head was starting to hurt, and I was kind of like, ugh. That's how friggin', I'm like, I can't even hug somebody. Because I just didn't think. You see somebody you haven't seen in a long time, you're like, oh my gosh, and then I just exuberant, you know, and because I'm a huggy person anyway, so, but I can't even hug someone. It's just like, chemical sensitivity is frustrating. It's just frustrating. And I have to say, this is actually so much better than it used to be, because at the peak of my illness and my sensitivities and stuff like that, like, I couldn't even, I would severely react. Like, I could have anaphylaxis. Like, that's how bad it was. So it gave me a kind of a PTSD about like leaving my house. I could react to stuff in my house, but a lot less. I had, you know, a pretty controlled environment, and my house was chemical free and all that stuff. But like, I couldn't use my gas stove, my gas oven at all. I remember I had the gas man come out one time because I was like, I keep smelling gas. I'm like, whenever we use the oven, I can smell gas. And I'm like, we can't use it because I can smell the gas. And he looked at it and he said, there's nothing abnormal about your oven. This is like a gas oven. He's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, he's like, that's just normal. And I was like, but it makes me sick. Like, I can't use it. It makes me really sick. And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, but there's nothing wrong with it. Cause I thought there was a leak. Cause I could smell the gas. And he's like, no, there's no leak. It's totally like, this is like an almost new stove oven. So, and I was like, okay. So yeah, we just couldn't use it. So that's when we started using a toaster oven all the time, because we couldn't use an oven. So I would react to everything all the time. I was reacting to the carpets in my house. I was so sensitive to everything everything was so overwhelming. But it would take me out. Like, if I had a reaction like that, it could take me out for like weeks. It was bad. It was so severe. And now I've actually healed a significant amount, even though I'm still chemically sensitive for sure, and I can still have symptoms if I'm too exposed to anything. I mean, I've just worked to have my environment be safe for me, but my recovery time is so much faster. So instead of taking me out for weeks, it could be like an hour or even less. It's just, my recovery time is quicker and easier. And so I don't want you to think, what, she's been healing for 4 years and she's still chemically sensitive, because medical medium has said that with chemical sensitivity, he said this in the liver rescue book. If you're wanting to look it up yourself, you should, because I'm not going to recite everything he said. I'm paraphrasing. He's talked about it in liver rescue, and he's talked about it in cleanse to heal, but more in liver rescue. So with multiple chemical sensitivity, it's one of those things where you're kind of always going to be sensitive to a degree, but your recovery time gets faster. And that's what he's said about it. So as you're healing, your recovery time gets faster. So I kind of view my chemical sensitivity, honestly, like a superpower in ways, even though I just sat here making a video about how disappointing some of these things are. because it keeps me safe. Because the things that my sensitivity detects as being dangerous for my body are actually dangerous for everybody. The difference is my sensitivity makes me have to get out of there right away, because if I don't, there's immediate consequences, whereas other people's livers might not be as toxic and they might not have had as much toxins and pathogen exposure that it makes them, like, you know, feel the way I feel when I'm exposed to chemicals. But it's still dangerous. It still gets trapped in your liver and goes into your liver, and it ends up, you know, it can end up feeding pathogens if your liver is toxic and sluggish, which kind of everybody's is at this point. So again, I'm just I'm the canary in the coal mine. I'm the one who lets everybody know, like, hey, this is dangerous. Don't breathe here. Don't breathe here. This is not good. Even though it does hinder me in ways, I also appreciate it in ways. It's like finding the silver lining, right? That's the silver lining, is that it keeps me and my family safe. Because we can make conscious decisions about, you know, if we know somebody's house has plug-in air fresheners, or if there's a house, like if we are going to go look at it or whatever for sale, we can just make a conscious decision not to go there, and so not to expose ourselves to that and add that extra level of toxins when we don't have to. And maybe after years of hearing us talk about how dangerous it is, maybe other family members will also get on board and realize the damage they're doing to their own livers as well. Maybe. Everybody has free will. You can only give people information if they're willing to hear it. So that's their choice. But I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, about that chemical sensitivity, and about, you know, it's like, again, it has healed to a strong degree as far as my recovery time. I recover a lot more quickly, despite my story about, you know, honestly, the story about the girl who came over and she had that strong scent on, if that had happened when we were on the West Coast, well, she couldn't have entered the house, but if she had, I mean, that would have taken me out for weeks. It would have been devastating. Like the fatigue, the migraines, the dizziness, the pain, the brain fog, all of that stuff. And then other symptoms being exacerbated. Like, there's no way. I remember, even when we were trying to sell our house, when we were still there, to find a realtor that we could even let come in the house so that they could sell it. Like, that was the whole thing. And then we moved ourselves out of the house into the RV when they started showing it, because you can't tell people who are coming to look at a house they have to be chemical free. So we just moved into the RV so that I wouldn't be in the house exposed to anything, because that was, So, oh yeah, good times with chemical sensitivity. It's just the fact. It's just what it's like. And I'm telling you, as we come, more and more people that I talk to are starting to have chemical sensitivities. And because of the amount of toxins and stuff that we are exposed to on a daily basis all the time, and most of us have no idea about that, I think the number of chemical sensitivities is just going to go up and up. So I know a lot of you watching my videos have chemical sensitivity. If you would like to share any of your experiences in the comments, they would be most welcome. I would love to hear them. I'm sure a lot of you have. I'm sure you could probably add to what I've been saying, and you have your own take on it as well, and things that have happened or whatever. So any of that, please share it in the comments below. Thank you so much, my healers and health seekers, for watching this video. I haven't made a lot of videos lately because we're still dealing with this scheduling thing, and I don't get time and space to do it. And also I've been in my garden and just going through some stuff too. So all of these things contribute. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence. I wish you all so many blessings on your healing journey. In your healing journey. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up below. You can subscribe to my channel by hitting the subscribe button over there. You can ding the bell next to it if you want to be notified when I post new videos. I honestly recommend that if you want to be notified, because I have such an irregular and inconsistent upload schedule. I love you, my healers and health seekers. Stay curious, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.